In this video, we're going to be looking at how to read notes, or music notation. So this video is for complete beginners on reading music. So never read a note before, no idea what music notation is, and doesn't know how to name any of the notes at all in music. Okay, so the first thing to remember is the musical alphabet. So what do I mean by that? Well, the musical alphabet starts from A and goes up to G. So G is the highest note that you need to go up to. So after that, there's no H, I, J, K, etc. in music. G, just think about it as G is the highest note you're going to go to before you go back to A. Again, that's really, really important. So that's the first thing. So what I'm going to do, if you look at my screen now, I'm going to draw in some random notes, completely random notes. Here we go. So I'm going to draw in 4 notes here. So move that across. So what we've got here is 4 notes. Now what we're going to start with is how to read the notes in between the lines here. So these lines, first of all, it's called a stave, a musical stave. So all these lines here, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines. Some notes are going to be in between the 2 lines and some are going to be on the line. That's very important. But this thing here is called the stave. Yeah, that's where all your notes are going to go, on the stave. This is the treble clef. This is something called the time signature, which we'll look at in another video. And all these lines, or this whole bar, we call it a musical bar, this whole bar here, this is called the stave. So that's an important word that we need to remember. And all your notes are going to go within these lines, or within this musical stave. Okay, so what we're going to start with are the notes in between each of the lines, which are the notes that I've drawn in here. So as you can see, each of these notes that I've put in, they're in between the lines. Yeah, if I do this, if I move one of the notes down or up, now the note is on the line. Yeah, and there is a big difference there, which I'll explain in a minute. So we're going to start with the easier notes, I think, which are the ones in between the space. So how do we read these if we've never done this before and we don't know how to read music? Well, here's a really simple way. If I type in the names of these notes, which I'll do right now, you have a guess. You tell me what you think is going to happen. So I'm going to write the name of the note just in here, and hopefully you will kind of see what happens straight away without me telling you, but let me do that. So this one is C and this one is E. Just draw this last one in. Okay, so these are the names of each of these notes. Now, if you look closely, what does it spell? The answer is right in front of you. Okay, so it spells face, and that is a really easy way to remember the names of the notes, starting from the bottom line to the top of all the notes in between the spaces. Not the ones on the lines, they're going to be different. I'll talk about that in a minute, but if you want to remember all the notes from the bottom line to the top, in between the spaces specifically, you start on F and it spells face. So that's a really simple way of how you could work out all of these notes in between this, on the spaces. Easy, right? Just remember face, F-A-C-E. Start from the bottom, go up. That's it. Straight away, you can now work out any note that's in the spaces. Okay? So let me show you the next way of how to do the notes in between the lines, on the lines, I should say. And then we'll talk about how to combine them and how to read them, how to work out any note from what I've told you. So let me go and draw in this next bar the names of the other notes. So we haven't done the ones on the lines, like I said, so I'm going to draw those in quickly. So it's going to look like this. I'll do the last one here on another bar, but it doesn't matter. So as you can see, each of these notes are now on a line. Yeah. So if we combine this bar and these, we've now got each of the notes starting from this note, which is E. I'll write that in a minute, to this note here at the top, the very top line. Now there are more notes than this. There are notes that go outside of these lines. They're called ledger lines, we'll talk about that in another video. That's a bit more complicated, but we're concentrating on basically the bottom line to the top. We're going to cover every note within that, which is still quite a lot. So if I draw these notes in now and tell you what they are, and that will make things a bit clearer. So this one is E. So it's the same if you look at this one. So this last one we said with face, that's also an E note, and this is basically a lower version of E. Okay, the next one, draw that in, is G. Next one is B. Next one is D. And finally, this is another repeat of what we've already done actually, but I'll show you it anyway. That's another F note. So again, this F is the same as this one here that we said with face, but just this one's a higher version. It's the repeat of that note. So now looking at these, if we wanted an easy way to remember all the notes on the lines, now if we look at it, it doesn't spell anything like face or anything obvious. Yeah, there's no word that we can get from that that's just easy to remember like face is. But what we can do is this, is we come up with a rhyme or a saying that helps us remember these notes specifically on the lines. And that is this, you can remember this: every good boy deserves fudge. Okay, so why have I said that? Well, quite simply, it follows the name, it follows each of the letters. So each letter corresponds with the first letter of each word. Yeah, E, G, B, every good boy, D, F, deserves fudge. I mean, you could obviously come up with your own rhyme. You can come up with your own saying to remember this. Some people say every good boy deserves fudge or fruit, anything. As long as it follows the letter names, you can make up your own rhyme if you want. But it's just something that it seems really simple and really obvious, right? But this is just an easy way. It just gets stuck in your head. That's the point. And eventually, obviously, you won't need to do that. You'll just know it's, oh, the ones on the lines, E, G, B, D, F. But for now, just remember starting from the bottom line. If we look at this note here, E, every good boy deserves fruit or fudge. Can't remember what I said, but either way, it's fine. So the point is, starting on the bottom line, that's your E or every. And again, counting up, you could work out any note on each of the lines from E going up to F. So a really simple way, again, to remember all those notes. Okay, so the next thing is, how do we combine this and how do we use what I've told you to remember any note, basically? Because you can memorize this, it takes a bit of time and you can get comfortable with it, but we want to be able to read any note using this as well, even if I got rid of all this. So what I mean is, what happens if, let's say, I get rid of a couple of these notes, for example. Let me just get rid of some random ones and leave some of the others. Okay, that'll do for now. So let's say you've forgotten the rhyme, you've forgotten the word. There is actually still another way to work it out. You can basically count up or down in the alphabet. Now that sounds obvious, but again, use our musical alphabet. So what I mean, again, from A to G, but here's a good tip. Here's a good thing to practice. Practice counting the musical alphabet backwards. Not so easy if you've never done that before. So being able to go G, F, E, D, C, B, A. Trust me, it's not so easy if you've never done that before. But the reason I say that is because we're going to have to do that to work out some of these notes potentially. You might have to count, if you know what one note is and you have to get 2 steps away, for example, you need to count up or down in the alphabet to work out what the next note is. So that's a really good thing to practice, just making sure you can go A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then the same in reverse. Really easy, really comfortably. And remembering, like I said, no H, I, J, K in music. Just think G, then back to A. Yeah, G, and then back to A. It's really, really important. A lot of people get stuck on that. Okay, so if we look here back at these notes, so let's say you've forgotten, you remember what A is, for example. You know that that's this one here, but you can't remember what this one's called. Let's just say you've forgotten the whole face word thing completely. Well, it's actually not too bad. You can still kind of work it out. If you know what some notes are, you can use that to work out others, even if you forgot. So what I mean is, let's say you know A. All you need to think is, okay, well, looking at this note, the way it works is this. One note up would be on the line, so here, and then one more would be in the space where we are, right? This note here, which is the one we're trying to work out. So all you need to do is count up. You'd start with A, and you'd go, okay, the next one must be B on the lines, because B is after A. And then counting up in the alphabet again, what's after B? C. So this note here that we were trying to work out, that must be C. Just from counting up in the alphabet, counting up the lines or the spaces, we've worked out that note. Even if we've forgotten this rhyme, whether it's, face or every good book, doesn't matter if it's on the lines or in between. That's a really easy way to work out the notes, even if you get stuck. So you could do that in reverse as well. For this, let's take another note. Okay, this one here. So I've got this note here that's B. This one here, sorry, this is B. Let's say I've forgotten this note. Or even actually, no, let's do it the other way around. Let's go backwards now. I know this one is D. Let me draw that in just as reference. So this one is D, but I've forgotten what this note here is. Yeah, so what I'm going to do, again, same thing, but I'm going to go backwards in the alphabet now. I'm going to think, okay, what's one down? So when I say down, going backwards in the alphabet. So what's one down from D? What's C? Which would be here. That would be, again, going down from a line to in between the lines. And then I've got to C. I just have to go back one again, which is, you probably guessed it, B. So there you go. We worked it out. This note here is B. Yeah. So that's it. So that's the technique you can use to potentially work out any of these notes, even if you've forgotten the rhyme, even if you've forgotten what some of the notes, or what some of the notes are, but you couldn't remember, let's say the very top ones or something. You should be able to count up or count down in the alphabet to work these out anyway. So that's a really easy technique to use. So, okay, let's do a quick exercise now. So from what I've told you, let's play the name the note game. So really simple. All I'm going to do, if you look at my screen, it's blank at the moment. I'm just going to draw in some random notes, and you can do this at home along with this video. I'm going to draw in a note. I'll give you some time. You can pause the video at that point if you want, and then I'll tell you what the note is. But I want you to try and work it out before I tell you. So again, you can pause the video, you can write it down on paper if you want, whatever you like, but let's do this together. And then each one, we'll do about 4 or 5 or so. And then I'll tell you how I worked it out in case you were unsure or forgot. But this is using the techniques we've just used. Let's see if we can do this. So question number 1. So the first note, random note, here we go. So that note there. So it's in between the lines. So what did we need to remember for that? Start on the bottom, count up. That's all the clues I'm going to give you for now. So if you want to pause the video now, or I'll give you a bit of time, work out this note and I'll tell you. Okay, so the answer to this one is, drum roll. There's no drum roll. C. So well done if you got that note. So this is the note of C. So how did I work that out if you completely forgot? Well, again, it's in between the lines. So think of face. Even if you remember that, well, you've got to think, okay, well, F of face would be the very bottom line. Remember, we started at the bottom space, I mean. That would be your F. Next one would be A, thinking of the word face. And then the next one, which is the note we said, would be C. So that's how I'd work that out. Okay? So let's do another one. Question 2. Let's do one in between the lines. There you go. So this note here, what is the name of this note? Give you a bit of time. Pause the video now if you want. Have you got it? I hope you have. Okay, so the name of this note is G. So well done if you got that. Again, if you didn't get that, don't worry. I'll tell you how to work it out. So very simply, this is on the line, so you can't use the face method. You have to remember every good boy deserves fudge. That started on the very bottom line. So that would be every or E. The note I told you to look at was the one just above that. So that'd be the second word in your rhyme, which was good, every good boy. So it's G. So this note here is G. So E would be this. This one would be G. Don't worry about these funny symbols in between, by the way, that's coming up on my notation software. These are called sharps and flats, but we'll talk about that another time. You don't need to worry about that for now. Okay, let's do another one. Okay, question 3. Let's do a higher one now. Let's do, yeah, right there. Okay, so this note here, give you a bit of time, pause the video. Okay, so the name of this note is E. So well done if you got that. If you didn't get that, again, is it in the lines? Sorry, is it in between the lines or is it on the line? Well, if we look closely, it's in between the space. So straight away, we can use the face method to work this out. Now we just need to know, is it F, is it A, is it C, or is it E? Well, again, like I said before, start from the bottom, go all the way down like that. That would be F. So F, A, C, E. That's how we get E. So again, the last letter of our face technique that we used. Okay, so you of course could use this. We could do this for a lot more notes. We could do this on any note, but the idea is that you want to be able to name any note on these lines or in between the lines that we've talked about, either using this method or using a combination of this method and kind of counting up and down the alphabet. But the idea is if you keep practicing this, you should, with not a lot of time really, be able to name any note, which is obviously very helpful for a lot of things. This is just the very basics, of course. We can go over this in more detail in other videos, but hopefully this gives you some idea of how music notation works and how to read notes in general. It's not as scary as some people think, or some people reading it on paper looks like, you know, reading a different language or something. It can be tricky, but you know, the basics are not too bad. So don't worry, keep practicing this and you'll be fine.